My brother made me weigh every Christmas gift to the gram because fairness matters. Last week, they found his spreadsheet tracking which child he'd touch next. My older brother Kevin was obsessed with precise equality from the moment I could walk. But Christmas morning when I was 8 years old, everything escalated to a level that should have been our first warning sign. Kevin stood next to our tree with Mom's kitchen scale, demanding that every single gift be weighed before we could open anything. He had a notebook where he recorded the exact weight of each present down to the decimal point, making sure his pile matched mine within 5 grams. If there was any discrepancy, he'd throw a screaming fit until Mom redistributed gifts to balance the scales perfectly. That first Christmas with the weighing ritual, Kevin made me sit on the couch for 3 hours while he calculated and recalculated the gift distribution with mathematical precision. He'd unwrap corner edges to peek inside boxes, estimating contents, then rewrap them with surgical precision using clear tape and ruler measurements. When my pile weighed 2.3 grams more than his, he demanded Mom take away my smallest gift until we achieved perfect balance. Mom nervously laughed and said Kevin was just being thorough, but I saw the exhaustion in her eyes as she complied with his increasingly bizarre demands for absolute fairness. Kevin's obsession with measurement extended beyond Christmas within weeks of that first weighing incident. He started timing our conversations with Dad using a stopwatch app on his phone, interrupting family discussions to announce when I'd exceeded my allocated speaking time. Kevin created detailed spreadsheets tracking every privilege, every dollar spent on us, every minute of attention we received from our parents throughout each day. His bedroom looked like a corporate accounting office with filing cabinets full of documentation proving the exact distribution of parental resources between us over multiple years. By age 10, Kevin had installed a security camera in our shared hallway without telling anyone, claiming he needed to document unfair treatment for his records. He'd review footage each night, timing how long Mom spent in my room versus his during bedtime routines with a digital stopwatch. If I got 30 seconds more of tucking in, Kevin would wake up Mom at midnight demanding equal time for himself. Our parents started walking on eggshells, measuring their words and actions to avoid triggering Kevin's elaborate fairness calculations that consumed our entire family dynamic. Kevin's documentation system became increasingly sophisticated as he entered middle school, incorporating color-coded charts and complex mathematical formulas to calculate fairness ratios. He weighed our dinner portions on the same kitchen scale from Christmas, demanding precise measurements of meat, vegetables, and starches to ensure identical nutrition distribution. Kevin started billing our parents for discrepancies, creating invoices for attention debt and privilege imbalances that he'd slide under their bedroom door each morning before school. When I started playing basketball at 13, Kevin demanded equal investment in his activities, even though he showed no interest in sports. He created fake hobbies that required expensive equipment just to match what Mom and Dad spent on my team fees and gear. Kevin bought a professional art set he never touched, music lessons for instruments he never practiced, and camping equipment for wilderness trips he never took. Everything got weighed, measured, and documented in his ever-expanding files of family financial data. The breaking point came during my 15th birthday party when Kevin showed up with his scale and notebook, demanding to weigh every gift I received from friends and family members. He stood at our front door checking each present against his calculations, announcing to my confused guests that gift-giving required mathematical precision to be truly fair to all parties involved. My friends were uncomfortable watching Kevin weigh their presents while explaining his fairness philosophy to teenagers who just wanted to celebrate my birthday with cake and games. That night, after everyone left, Kevin cornered me in my bedroom with a thick folder of printed documents that he'd been preparing for months. He'd been tracking every advantage I'd ever received, calculating compound interest on attention debt, and demanding immediate payment in privileges and parental time. Kevin showed me spreadsheets going back years with columns for gifts, meals, conversations, hugs, and even eye contact from our parents. According to his calculations, I owed him over 200 hours of exclusive parental attention, plus monetary compensation for gift discrepancies dating back to childhood. Our parents finally agreed to family therapy after Kevin's teacher called about his classroom behavior becoming disruptive to other students. He'd been timing how long teachers spent answering other students' questions, demanding equal response time for his inquiries, regardless of their relevance to the lesson. Kevin brought his documentation to every therapy session, presenting evidence of unfair treatment, while our therapist, Dr. Patricia Mills, looked increasingly concerned. During our third appointment, she asked Kevin private questions about his need for control and documentation, probing deeper into his motivations. Dr. Mills recommended individual therapy for Kevin after observing his behavior patterns for several weeks with our family. She explained to our parents privately that Kevin's obsession with measurement and control showed signs of developing into something more serious than sibling rivalry. Kevin refused to attend individual sessions, claiming the therapist was biased against him because she'd been influenced by our family's complaints about his perfectly reasonable requests for fairness and equality. When Kevin graduated high school, he surprised everyone by choosing a college 3 hours away, claiming he needed space from family dynamics that had stunted his emotional growth. I felt relief for the first time in years, finally able to have conversations with Mom and Dad without someone timing them or weighing my dinner portions on a kitchen scale. Our house felt lighter without Kevin's constant surveillance and measurement of every family interaction, though we all walked carefully around topics that might trigger his anger. College seemed to help Kevin initially when he called home during his freshman year. He called less frequently, stopped sending weekly reports about his activities that required equal investment from our parents. When he did visit during holidays, Kevin appeared more relaxed, though I noticed he still carried a small notebook where he jotted down observations about our family interactions. He'd gotten better at hiding his documentation habits, but they clearly hadn't disappeared completely despite the therapeutic interventions and distance from home. Kevin majored in accounting, which surprised no one given his lifelong obsession with numerical precision and detailed record-keeping of financial transactions. He graduated with honors and immediately got hired by a local firm that specialized in nonprofit auditing and financial oversight. Our parents were proud that Kevin had found a career that suited his meticulous nature, finally channeling his need for precision into something professionally productive rather than destructively personal and family-focused. After college, Kevin moved back to our hometown but got his own apartment across town near his new job. He seemed to be building a normal adult life, dating occasionally, making friends at work, even joining a recreational bowling league. Kevin still visited family dinners every Sunday, but his old behaviors were much more subtle. He'd still notice discrepancies in attention or treatment, but he'd just make mental notes rather than demanding immediate corrections with scales and timers. Kevin got promoted to senior auditor within 2 years, earning praise from supervisors for his thorough documentation and attention to detail in financial records. He started specializing in audits for organizations that worked with children, schools, youth programs, and community centers. Kevin told our family he enjoyed the work because it allowed him to ensure resources were being distributed fairly to kids who deserved equal opportunities and treatment in educational settings. When I got married at 25, Kevin offered to help with wedding planning, claiming his organizational skills would be useful for managing guest lists and vendor coordination. He created elaborate spreadsheets for everything from seating arrangements to gift tracking, but his approach seemed more helpful than obsessive. Kevin had learned to present his documentation tendencies as professional competence rather than personal compulsion, making them socially acceptable and even valuable to other people. Kevin volunteered to coach youth basketball at the community center, where he'd audited their programs the previous year. He said working with kids was rewarding and that his fairness principles could help ensure every player got equal opportunities to improve their skills. The parents loved Kevin's systematic approach to playing time and skill development, praising him for treating all their children with mathematical equality that other coaches often failed to provide consistently. During his first year coaching, Kevin implemented detailed tracking systems for each player's progress, documenting their strengths, weaknesses, and development areas with scientific precision. He created individual improvement plans for every child on the team, scheduling one-on-one training sessions to ensure equal attention distribution. Parents were impressed by Kevin's dedication and thorough approach to youth development, often commenting on how much their children enjoyed working with such an organized and fair-minded coach. Kevin's coaching methods attracted attention from other community programs, and he was invited to speak at coaching clinics about equitable player development strategies. He presented his documentation systems as innovative approaches to youth sports management, demonstrating how careful measurement and record-keeping could eliminate favoritism and ensure every child received appropriate attention. Kevin seemed to have found his calling, combining his obsessive tendencies with genuinely helpful community service. Our family dynamics had improved dramatically over the years since Kevin had channeled his control issues into positive outlets. He still kept detailed records of his life, but it seemed like a quirky personality trait rather than a destructive compulsion. Kevin appeared to have successfully transformed his need for control and measurement into professional success and community involvement that helped other people rather than tormenting his family with impossible fairness standards. Kevin started dating Jennifer, a teacher at one of the elementary schools whose financial records he'd audited. She seemed genuinely happy with him and appreciated his organized approach to life and relationships. Jennifer told our family that Kevin was the most thoughtful boyfriend she'd ever had, always ensuring their relationship was balanced and fair. She mentioned how Kevin kept track of their date expenses and activities to make sure they were equally invested in their partnership. When Kevin and Jennifer got engaged after 2 years of dating, our parents were thrilled that he'd found someone who appreciated his unique personality. Jennifer embraced Kevin's systematic approach to wedding planning, and they created elaborate spreadsheets to track every detail of their ceremony and reception. Their wedding was perfectly organized and executed, with Kevin ensuring that both families were treated with mathematical equality throughout the entire celebration process. After their marriage, Kevin continued coaching youth basketball while Jennifer taught 4th grade at Riverside Elementary School. They seemed like the perfect couple, both dedicated to working with children and sharing Kevin's commitment to fairness and organization. Kevin expanded his volunteer coaching to include summer camps and after-school programs, becoming increasingly involved in the local youth sports community and gaining respect from parents and administrators. Kevin and Jennifer bought a house near the community center where Kevin coached, and they talked about starting a family of their own. Kevin said he looked forward to applying his fairness principles to parenting ensuring any children they had would be raised with consistent rules and equal treatment. Jennifer seemed excited about the prospect of having children with someone who would be such a methodical and dedicated father. Last month, I got a call from Detective Sarah Walsh asking if I could come to the police station to discuss my brother Kevin. My stomach dropped immediately because I knew that tone meant something terrible had happened, but I couldn't imagine what Kevin might have done wrong. He seemed to have his life together: successful career, volunteer work with kids, steady marriage with Jennifer, who seemed genuinely happy with their relationship and future plans. Detective Walsh showed me into a small interview room and explained that Kevin had been arrested following an investigation into inappropriate contact with minors at the community center where he coached basketball. She said they'd found extensive documentation at Kevin's apartment that showed a disturbing pattern of behavior with the children under his supervision. The detective asked what I knew about Kevin's history with record-keeping and obsessive documentation of personal interactions with family members. When Detective Walsh opened Kevin's confiscated laptop on the table between us, I saw spreadsheets that made my blood run cold in recognition. Kevin had created detailed tracking documents for every child he'd coached over the past 3 years, noting their physical development, emotional vulnerabilities, family situations, and opportunities for private contact. Each kid had a file with photos, personal information, and what looked like a systematic plan for building trust and accessing them without detection. The detective scrolled through Kevin's files, showing a column titled Selection Criteria, where he'd rated children based on factors like family stability, likelihood to report inappropriate contact, and physical attributes that appealed to him. Another spreadsheet tracked his interactions with each child, documenting when he'd gained their trust, isolated them from other kids, and gradually escalated inappropriate touching during coaching sessions and private training meetings. Kevin had applied his lifelong obsession with documentation and control to predatory behavior, using his systematic approach to target vulnerable children while maintaining detailed records of his crimes. Detective Walsh explained that Kevin's meticulous record-keeping had actually made the investigation easier because he'd documented everything, including which children he planned to target next, based on his calculated assessment of risk and opportunity. The detective showed me Kevin's schedule, where he'd planned out future contact with specific children, timing his approaches based on their family situations and vulnerability levels. He'd noted which kids had absent fathers, working mothers, or family problems that made them eager for adult attention and approval. Kevin had weaponized his fairness obsession, ensuring he spent calculated amounts of time grooming each target child while maintaining his reputation as an exceptionally dedicated coach. Detective Walsh revealed that Kevin's documentation included recordings and photographs of his interactions with children, stored in meticulously organized folders on his computer. He'd kept detailed notes about each child's responses to his inappropriate behavior, tracking their compliance and silence over time. The evidence was overwhelming and disturbing, showing that Kevin had been systematically abusing his position of trust for years while everyone praised his dedication to youth development. The investigation had begun when a 12-year-old boy named Alex told his parents about special training sessions with Coach Kevin that made him uncomfortable. Alex's parents contacted the community center, which launched an internal investigation that quickly involved police when patterns of inappropriate behavior became apparent. Several other children came forward with similar stories once the investigation began, describing Kevin's systematic approach to isolating and manipulating them. Jennifer filed for divorce the day after Kevin's arrest, releasing a statement through her attorney expressing shock and devastation about her husband's crimes. She explained that she'd had no knowledge of Kevin's predatory behavior and was cooperating fully with law enforcement. Jennifer took leave from her teaching position and moved out of state to stay with family while the investigation continued and media attention intensified. 3 months later, Kevin pleaded guilty to multiple counts of child sexual abuse and received a 15-year prison sentence without possibility of parole. The judge commented that she'd never seen such detailed documentation of predatory behavior, noting that Kevin's systematic approach to targeting children showed premeditation and calculation that demanded the maximum punishment allowable under law. She said his meticulous records proved this wasn't impulsive behavior, but a carefully planned pattern of abuse. During the sentencing hearing, several parents gave victim impact statements describing how Kevin had destroyed their children's trust in adults and love of basketball. They spoke about the therapy bills, the nightmares, and the way their kids now flinched when adults tried to help them with sports techniques. One father said Kevin had stolen their family's sense of safety by masquerading as a caring mentor while systematically abusing their trust and their children. Kevin's fairness obsession had evolved into something far darker than anyone in our family could have imagined, using his need for control and documentation to systematically abuse children who trusted him as their coach and mentor. The same meticulous record-keeping that had tormented our childhood had become evidence of crimes that would keep him in prison for the next decade and a half.